Hello and welcome to the Cloud Blue Podcast Inside Bodymoor show as John Townley reports back from inside Bodymoor this afternoon for Unai Emery's press conference ahead of Aston Villa versus Bournemouth on Saturday. We've been having a bit of small talk about chocolate, which we'll talk about in a second because neither of us can get it off our minds. But John, how are you, mate? How's things?
Yeah, very good. Thanks, Dan. Really looking forward to tomorrow and another game, Palace, Tottenham, Champions League after that, then Liverpool. So, yeah, loads of games coming thick and fast. Yeah, been a really good start to the season, obviously. Hopefully we can continue that tomorrow. I think that'll be our 6th Premier League win of the season if we manage to get 3 points. So, yeah, also a chance to go into the top 3, I think. Potentially second. Ooh. I'm not too sure, but I was looking. Obviously, Arsenal play at Liverpool, so that's an opportunity for us to move above them. So, yeah, will be nice. Hopefully another win on Saturday. So, yeah, looking forward to it.
It would take a Man City are on 20 points, we're on 17, so it would take Man City losing to Southampton and a goal difference swing of 5 in both games, which is not going to happen. Arsenal 17 points plus 2 goal difference over Villa, plus 7 is theirs. They, as you say, play Liverpool. So, yeah, I mean, a draw in the Arsenal-Liverpool game and a win for Villa would be probably the perfect weekend, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Or Arsenal losing. I like to see Arsenal lose these days, the way that they go about it. I remember you said like last year or even like 2 years ago about their antics and stuff, and I never really cottoned on to it. But now I really do have a dislike for them and the way they do stuff. And it's no surprise that they've had so many red cards at the start of the season because it's spilled over now. I remember you were saying things like, Emery says no excuses, whereas Arteta's very much different and he always kind of blames other things. And that I don't think ever works you well long term. That's probably showing a little bit now. If they lose to Liverpool, they're practically out of the title race, I think. So, yeah. This is a Villa podcast, of course, but it'd be nice if we can go above them. That's the point.
Well, I'm all for a bit of Arteta bashing from you. I'm absolutely all for that. But we are here to talk about Aston Villa, as you said, and Unai Emery. You've been to his press conference this afternoon. Let's focus on the football rather than the food to begin with. Any specific lines stand out to you as being the one to talk about?
There are quite a few lines, actually. Do check Birmingham Live to see the quotes, obviously. But yeah, some nice questions asked by the broadcast section, and some really good answers from Emery, actually. I really liked when he spoke about the fans, the connection that he's been building with Villa, his first 2 years at the club, but then what the next 2 years going to look like. And he spoke really well about kind of not forgetting what we've done, but also, more and more is what we want. We want to continue to be demanding, which is very obvious that Emery would say something like that, but it's very obvious. Like the thing with Emery that gets me, he never just says these things to look good or to sound like he's saying the right things. Like, trust me, when you're in his company, he rarely cracks a smile unless he says Super John McGinn, because he's so like, yeah, we need to improve though. Like, it's, cut and dry, we're 4th. We're doing really well in the Champions League. And then he'll sit back like, no, but we're 3 games in. Like, that means nothing yet, that kind of thing. So, yeah, to kind of experience his journey, or at least, 95% of it since the start of last season, it's, been kind of really obvious to me that this guy, he doesn't mess about. And that was even more obvious when he spoke about John McGinn, when he was asked, McGinn said that you will be one of the greatest ever managers in the club's history. What do you think? And he basically said, I don't like compliments, and John McGinn, you need to improve your level. Like, what's the man got to do to get in his good books? I mean, obviously, like, Emery loves McGinn, and we all know that. He said it to me a couple of weeks ago.
Just like setting an example, like McGinn's like the I don't know, like the teacher's pet, and Emery has to keep publicly downplaying him, basically.
Yeah. But it made me laugh a lot during the press conference. And he just, again, he wasn't saying it as like a joke of like, thanks, but no thanks. I don't like bad comments or good comments. He said it straight faced, no, I don't like good comments, don't like bad comments. I want balance. And I just thought, when McGinn's going to read that, he's going to think, what have I got to do, boss? But again, obviously, this is only played out in front of the media, and they get on, like a house on fire, the whole dressing room with Emery. You feel like if that, for example, when Steven Gerrard said stuff about Tyrone Mings, it's a very different moment in Aston Villa's, where we were, how that really, felt, the deeper meaning behind it, you thought at the time. But this is completely different. Emery is kind of king of the castle. He can say what he wants about who he likes, and he knows he'll get a positive reaction out of it, and there's never any malice behind it at all. They all know that we're in this to, maybe one day compete for the Premier League title. That's essentially the goal, win a Champions League. Like, there is no limit to Emery's ambition. If there was, then he would be doing himself a disservice because he's working so hard, and the players have to put in the yards as well. And McGinn is doing that, but he just wants a bit more from him from the start of the season. So, yeah.
Just want to touch on the mentality and the kind of like the seriousness, I suppose, of his attitude of just like always wanting to strive to be better and that kind of vibe. I saw somebody on Twitter, I can't remember what the context was, but I think they were referring to Martinez's winning like mentality and this like drive just to keep going and keep pushing, and how infectious that is as a footballer, and how as fans we're maybe even just not used to that yet, as there's like the relentless nature of like it was the Duran stuff after Bologna coming off in the way that he did, even though he just scored. Yep. And some people seeing that as like he's still got some kind of attitude problem. He's just scored, like lighten up kind of thing. And whoever this was on Twitter, forgive me, because you might see the podcast. I'm sure it's somebody I'll follow anyway. And they were saying like, it's just a winner's mentality. Like he'll want to score another goal. He'll want to play 90 minutes. That's what we need. Like it's just a different level that we can't relate to as just like normal people.
Yeah, I didn't. I don't know what comment that is, Dan, but I did a piece. Maybe it was myself. I'm not sure. I did a piece saying, maybe it was. I'm not going to take credit for it because I'm sure it was someone else before me. But I did a piece saying exactly that. Like it was easy to look at Duran there and think, oh, that's immature again. And yeah, like granted, he should have, controlled his emotions better. But it's very rare that a player 30, 35 or 20 is going to come off the pitch having scored his 7th goal of the season in 12 games or something, scored in the Champions League again, had that moment, and then start thumping up the bench and kicking the seats. Like no one does that unless your mentality is, something similar to like a Ronaldo or whoever it is, just so driven and like a laser focus on I'm going to be the best player that I can possibly be, which in Duran's head is the best player probably ever, to have played football. Like that, but that's his focus, and a lot of our players might not be as kind of emotionally like reckless as Duran can be or was in that moment. But I think we all know that they're all of similar kind of mentality to that. They want to improve and get better, and they know that their career doesn't last forever. But under Emery, for as long as he's here, hopefully it's forever. But for as long as he's here, they would need to maximise their own potential, because under Emery, that is much more than what it is under another manager that may have come previously in their career. That they all know that what a massive opportunity they have. Basically, the same goes for like the young players as well. This is where you want to be, and this is where you're going to grow. So, it is all about that mentality, and that's something that is still evolving. Emery said, because kind of leads me on a bit down to him basically saying that he wants Champions League football to become like a normality, and for Villa to enjoy their nights and enjoy the way that they're doing it, enjoy every day. He always says that, but actually Champions League and winning becomes like, okay, Villa have done it again. And he kind of mentioned, he didn't use the example of Real Madrid or I don't know, another club, but they seem to just do it, and they seem to just win when they're not playing well. But also it's like an expectancy, and a Champions League night at another club that isn't Villa is a normal night, like a Liverpool or whatever. It's just another game that's, a great memory. And that's what he wants to bring to Villa of, yes, this is only our second home game that we've had in the Champions League against Bologna, but he wants that to be a regular occurrence. And that's very exciting to me. And again, you trust him that we can do that, and that he believes that can happen because he's done it before. Like
he's not just saying it for the sake of, this sounds good, so I'm just going to say it.
We have, 16 years in Europe now, Emery in a row, maybe 17. I've kind of lost track myself. But for him, that he has, full belief that he'll be in Europe for another however many years, and hopefully all of them are with Villa. Being normal again. I mean, in the words of Duran, this is normal. That's what he wants Villa to be at the top level, and he absolutely believes that they can be as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of comments coming through, basically just saying things like hello. So hello to everybody watching along live with this live version of this podcast. Fred Blogs specifically says that he's dialing in from holiday in Disneyland Paris, hoping there's nothing Mickey Mouse about our performance tomorrow. Hey, excellent, good stuff. We'll come to score predictions at the end of the show, and I'll ask the comments to chip in with theirs as well. Yeah. Just on the presser, I'm absolutely not suggesting there's any needle between Emery and McGinn, but just like these comments, these little bits are like he has to improve and all that kind of stuff. McGinn would run through a brick wall through an Emery, as would all the players would. What must that be like, do you think, to be working within that environment? Let's say the presser, Emery says to you, John, that last piece you did, it was good, but you can do better, mate. Go on. You go out there going, right away, 100 miles an hour, wouldn't you? You just feel that energy.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. I've said that before, like he obviously doesn't speak to me in that way, of course he doesn't, but just being in his in his company, you do feel it, and I think it probably may be different as well because obviously I'm a huge Villa fan, and I can feel that energy, not as just as a kind of someone who's there, but also I want you to do well, Unai, and everyone connected to Villa, and you feel it like you feel motivated, and you feel like let's do it. And yeah, that's just me. I'm not obviously a footballer. Wish I was, but yeah, you get the you get those feelings from it just being in his company once a week, or more than once a week, maybe 3 times, 4 times a week. So yeah, it's something that you feel. And I remember saying it to Ash when he was doing the Villa role, and Emery was just appointed. I remember saying to him after every press conference, like, what did you learn today, Ash? Because it was almost like you are learning something, not just through what he says, but also his body language and how he approaches different situations and how he reacts to questions. That's something that you kind of pick up bits as you go along, which has been really fascinating. So, and that's just 1% of what he's like in a week. So to work with him and to be his captain like John McGinn is, it must be a blessing for McGinn, really. You know, this stage of his career as well, the level he's got to, and the level that I bet he thinks that he can get to even still, far surpasses anything that he probably expected to even 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah. Okay, one final thing from the presser. It's almost been like an elusive topic over the last year or so that we've done these previews. When I ask you about the food offering, Villa's variety tends to change here and there, but there's always a reference to cookies, and that'd be not the best thing ever. For the first time today, I got a sneak peek of those cookies in the WhatsApp group. So much so, we can flash it on screen for the YouTube viewers. What a great photograph that is, by the way, from Mr. Townley. Muffins and cookies. I never expected them to be cookies like that, but they look decent.
Yeah, they are decent. What did I have today? This isn't like a normal week. I was very hungry. I had 2 of those muffins. I had 1 cookie. I had a big bag of, I was about to call it cinema, popcorn. And I had an apple as well, just kind of balance it out.
A big bag of cinema.
Yeah. I had an apple to balance out. What else did I have? I had something else as well. I can't remember what it was. And then I've just had a big spaghetti bolognese as well. So I don't know what your question was, but I've just gone through what I've been eating today. The cookies are brilliant, and muffins as well. Like we are sport at the moment for sure.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on. The injury update. I mean, we're a very loaded front heavy part of the show there with the presser. Injury update, very much the opposite. For the second week in a row, and this feels like a little mini celebration in itself. No injury news to report. We have a clean bill of health again. This is unusual, isn't it? This is not normal, to quote John Duran.
Yeah. When I do my little videos after a press conference, I don't really know why I do it. But I was going to say, clean bill of health. I love that phrase. And I said it out and I thought, I ain't said that in I don't even know how long.
Since you started the job.
Yeah, Villa haven't had a clean bill of health. So they do have a clean bill of health now. It's just that obviously Philogene is out with a suspension.
Yeah.
But yeah, Villa can obviously manage that situation because they have a clean bill of health.
Why do you keep saying it?
Because I love it.
Okay, fine. Not sure where to go from here, to be honest. I mean, the order of the cards on the side is opposition view next, but sad news, opposition view doesn't exist again. I'm really frustrated with myself. I'm frustrated with the process, John, to be perfectly honest with you.
You're frustrated with the people who ignored you.
Yeah, basically, yeah. I mean, it's easy to organise when it's a fellow colleague of ours. Like, we're a big company covering a lot of football clubs, and Bournemouth is not one of them, sadly. So when it's just like the Everton journalist, like the Everton John Townley, I can just ping him a message and we can sort it and it's done. I messaged 2 or 3 Bournemouth podcasts over the last day. None of them even replied to my message. I was like, what am I supposed to do? I can't just get a random Bournemouth fan off Twitter to come on the podcast. That'd be mental. So if they don't reply, there's very little I can offer. So in place of an actual opposition view, let's actually talk about the opponent a little bit. And this will kind of bleed into our thoughts on how Villa approached the game as well. We'll get to that with our lineup after this. What do you make of Bournemouth? They obviously had a very good second half of the season, maybe even slightly more than that last year after starting pretty badly. They were on form of like a top 4 side, weren't they, at one stage, the run they put together. What do you kind of assess of them this season, though, in the bits you've seen?
Yeah, I can't confess I haven't watched too much of them. I've only seen highlights and goals that they've conceded and goals that they've scored, so not a whole lot.
So you've watched Match of the Day?
Yeah. Bournemouth have lost 6 of their past 9 away league matches, including the last 2 without scoring. So it's a winnable game for Villa. They're not in fantastic form. They definitely were when we played them last season. But I'll be totally honest, and this is it's probably going to jinx everything now. Sorry if I do, but they were probably, them and Fulham were the most disappointing teams that I saw play Villa Park last season. Like, genuinely. I just felt like they gave up a little bit. Like, Villa are obviously a very strong side and we can beat anyone on our day. Absolutely, especially at Villa Park. But Fulham and Bournemouth are like similar level teams, really. Fulham, yeah, kind of a no-show almost. I think we beat them 3-1. Bournemouth as well, 3-1 last season. And I just remember, I think we were 3-1. They went 1-0 up, didn't they? Then I think Rodgers scored just before half-time, which is a big goal in the game, I think. Then we made it 3-1. I think we might have had a penalty. Can't quite remember. But then I remember it was like 80th minute. Douglas Luiz was having a corner or was going to have a corner. And then we were just singing like Small Heath get battered everywhere they go for about 10 minutes or something. And it just, I don't know how to explain it, but it just sat like the whole...
Then,
yeah. And I just thought, Bournemouth, are you going to come at us or try and score? Are we just knocking it around the back? I was like, glad that they didn't, but equally as a neutral, I'd be like, what are they doing? Like, that was really like disappointing, considering that they are a good side and they're that kind of classic middling team that could cause a problem to its team who have just played Lille on penalties and have a massive emotional high. And then we kind of just, didn't wipe the floor with them, but it was very easy for us. So I'm expecting a difficult game, more difficult than that. If they do play like that, Bournemouth will beat them convincingly again. And yes, Villa can definitely do so because if they play well, they'll be fine. But I did see something. I'm going to try and find it now that they have scored a lot of. So Bournemouth have scored an unsurpassed 6 goals from the 70th minute onwards in the Premier League this season. 3 of which obviously came against Everton, which kind of skews it a little bit, but it kind of goes against what I've just said then about what they were like last season. Like, at the end of the game, they kind of just gave up. Whereas apparently this season, towards the end of matches, they're more of a threat, which is never a nice thing because if Villa are only 1-0 up on the 80th or 70th minute, or if it's a draw, that will stay in my head, and I'll be thinking,
almost a late goal here.
Yeah, because that's what they've done. But their away form isn't great. Not great travellers, Bournemouth. So if Villa play well, they win the match. That's kind of the only focus that I have, really.
I think it's really, we're still relatively early into the season. I know we're approaching that 10th game now, and that's where you start to kind of go, the table that we have here is similar-ish to, some people say it's similar-ish to how it will end, which obviously still lots of football to go, but it gives you a rough idea. I think that's true for the top and the bottom. I think the teams at the top and the teams around the bottom are pretty much, they've kind of built up a head of steam if they're at the top, or if they've got work to do if they're at the bottom. Whereas the teams that you expect to be around mid-table, I just find them still so hard to read. Like, just the last 2 results, they beat Arsenal. Well, impressive. Yes, Saliba got sent off, but it's still impressive. Game before they lost to Leicester. You think, Leicester are probably doing better than you'd think they would, to be honest, at the moment. But just that kind of duality of, like, they're still a poor team.
Yeah.
So I don't know what to expect. I feel similar in the way I do for this as the last podcast you did, the preview for Fulham last week. They're a decent side and they will probably finish mid-table with the threat of punching upwards a little bit higher. But ultimately, Villa are better and should win. And I felt like that with an away game last week. I certainly feel like it when it's at Villa Park.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's just Villa. I think I sent you a voice note after the Bologna game, or was it Fulham? Oh, the Fulham game. And it was basically just like, Villa are, to a point now, they're good enough to beat anyone when they play well. And that's what we are. So again, a bit boring if we do that. Often. Yeah, and if we do that against Bournemouth, we win the game. And I think we had a comment before saying, like, it's kind of just become normal now. I expect to beat Bournemouth. So yeah, cool. I'm totally honest, I never feel like that. I always feel like if we win against Bournemouth, that is just like, oh, like, wow, like we won a game. Like, that's still how I feel. And I don't ever want to lose that because like the thought of, like City fans going to games, scoring, not getting off your seat, and then just going home, like, come on, it's boring. So, I expect us to win on Saturday, but we can't take Bournemouth for granted because you're right, Dan. They'll be high on confidence, but equally, we don't know if they're going to be particularly good or particularly bad or in the middle. We don't know, but Villa play well, they win.
Yeah, okay. All right. Let's do away from match day next then. A couple of little things to plug here, a little bit of housekeeping. The Villa Social came out on Thursday, yesterday, for those that are watching live. It was a 2-year celebration of Unai Emery's 2 years at the club. A 2-year celebration of his 2 years. It wasn't a 2-hour-long episode. It was an hour-long podcast of his 2 years' time. 2 years' time at the club. really enjoyable show to record. It's good fun to edit and get it out there, and lots of good feedback so far. But if you've not had a chance to listen to it back yet, obviously we're in the heat of a Champions League game, Premier League game, Carabao Cup, but it's all going on with like the current stuff. But that Emery kind of look back at his time will still be relevant in the next few weeks. So if you haven't caught it yet, do go back and catch up with it. Got a little trailer here. So if you've not seen any of it at all and you don't know what I'm talking about, there's a little flavour of what's in that episode.
It's not like he brought in 10 of his own players immediately and he knew them all. Obviously now it's a bit different because he has got a few more, of his own players, like Pau Torres. No, not loads, but especially in that first season, though, to take us where we were when Gerrard got sacked away at Fulham and we were on the verge of being, in that relegation zone, and then taking us to 7th. That's mental.
If I'm honest, I'm scared for the day where there isn't an Unai.
But it's ages away.
No, I know.
It's not going to be.
You'll be like fully grey by then as well, which will be
not far off now. Yeah.
Do another.
I know Heck introduces like the dugout view.
Oh, we're going to avoid his name this week, Dan.
Fans paying like 20 grand a game to like sit behind Emery in the dugout, and that annoys him. Like, I honestly think that's the only kind of thing that can go wrong.
You know what's mad as well? That picture, the picture of Neuer diving through the air. I am in that background.
Oh yeah,
but I'm behind Neuer.
I don't think we'll ever finish below 5th. As long as Emery's there. Yeah,
wow, I think that's bold because you never know what's going to happen with the others. Dan Bardell on his first podcast that announced Unai Emery as Aston Villa manager.
Hang on, before you say how he pronounced it, can we all guess how?
Yeah, that's a great show.
Good idea.
But that is the epitome of Unai Emery.
Epitome?
Yeah, if that had happened, that's the right word, isn't it? Epitome?
Epitome.
Is that the right way to pronounce it?
Yeah.
You better cut that out.
Nah, leave that in order.
What did you call it?
Leave that order.
So that is the trailer for the Villa Social. Lots of fun and hijinks is how I describe the Villa Social. So if you've not caught that, go back and catch it on YouTube or Apple Podcasts, Spotify, etc. The other tiny bit of housekeeping is that we're asking for your feedback on the podcast. You can leave us some constructive criticism. Be nice, please, within reason. There is a link in the YouTube comments, in the YouTube description, or in the podcast description if you're listening to this as well. John, one other thing I wanted to touch on from away from match day very quickly, and I mean this quickly. Bologna. The last preview you did, or the last video you did, was the preview for Fulham. We've done Q&As, post-matches and all sorts since then. We've spoken about it to death, obviously, as you would expect, but you haven't. What was that like?
It feels like a long time ago now, actually.
Tuesday.
Yeah, I don't have much to say about it, really. I mean, I would have after the match, but yeah, 2-0 win. Pretty comfortable. Deserve to win the game with top of the Champions League, which is mad. I guess the game was the game. We played well. I kind of expected us to win. For me, perfectly honest with you, I expected us to beat Bologna around young boys, comfortably, and we did. It's obviously another thing doing it. Can't take those teams for granted, but I expected that. I am looking to that top 8 now for Villa because I think I've
That's mad, though, isn't it?
It's ridiculous. It really is ridiculous. I remember when we did our fake draw. And we were saying, your top 8 is basically top 1 plus Bayer Leverkusen, without a doubt. Yeah. And we'll be in the middle somewhere, hopefully, if we do. But we've kind of blown that out of the water, really.
I mean, our fake draw was much harder than what we eventually ended up with. We basically had 8 unwinnable games in the draw we did.
Yeah. We might have had young boys, I'm not sure, but it doesn't matter. Top 8 has to be the goal now because if we beat Club Brugge, which, again, we're capable of doing, that Juventus game becomes if we win this, lads, we could basically not have it guaranteed, absolutely not, but it's there. We're then potentially a point away. I think 2 more wins and a point would probably do it. I know Opta, if people haven't seen it, they said 15 points. They ran 50,000 simulations, and 15 points was the kind of benchmark for a top 8 finish. In 73% of those simulations, then 16 points was in 99% of the simulations. So 16 points is kind of what you want to target, which again is 2 more wins and a draw. So Celtic win, Bruges win. That's 2 wins there you'd like to think Villa could get. Juventus is there as well as a home game. Leipzig away, Monaco away will be really tough, I think, because that's the second best teams in Germany and France, obviously. So those games will be very difficult. Those are hard games. That's going to Atletico Madrid, I feel like that's almost like the same as
Do you think?
Monaco.
I don't look at all that.
for example, Lille won at Atletico. I bring Atletico because they're not having a great season. I think Simeone's getting found out a little bit, but I just meant clearly those two sides are doing the business in their own respective league. So are we. I think if Real Madrid or Bayern Munich saw Villa away, they thought, oh, good side, but we'd probably be able to beat them. I feel like that's what we would think about Monaco or Leipzig, without actually knowing too much about them, when actually it looks like they're doing very well so far. Monaco are having a good start to their Champions League as well. But yeah, the point I'm trying to make is top 8 has to be on our sites now. If we get that, that's round 16 guaranteed and £9.4 million banked. If we get 2 more wins, that would be
2 less games for our fixture congestion as well.
Yeah, 2 less games, but financially you're looking at £9.4 million banked for round 16, and then also 2 more wins would be like £3 million ish or more, £4 million ish, and then a draw as well takes that to like 4.5. So we've already got £5.4 million just off prize money alone. Obviously, I'm not factoring like TV money and stuff, just prize money. So Villa are all of a sudden kind of racking up a bit of money here, which is obviously very useful. Yeah, top 8 has to be the thing. I did say, to be fair to my dad, I think I kind of want to play a knockout, 2-legged knockout game because I want more Champions League football. But now that we're kind of in with a shout, I'm a bit like, let's just take the 8th place, obviously. And
that's like saying when you're in the Championship, we could finish in the top 2, but I quite like the excitement of the playoffs. No way.
That was
promoted.
Yeah, but that's Championship. This is Champions League. What I meant it was if we finished 9th and then we had like a 2-legged knockout game against Celtic, kind of like to think we could get over the line against those 2 games. You just have 2 more experiences, basically. Because you never know, round 16 we could get, and I know that we could beat them over 2 legs if we play well, probably, maybe, Real Madrid. Yeah, but then our run comes to an end, potentially, at the round of 16, and then there's no more, and it's like, that was great.
Yeah,
but
I know
no,
what you're saying, yeah.
I'm a bit torn, but I think, to be fair, the nearly £10 million you get just for getting round of 16, you also get a bonus as well just for finishing the top 8. So there's money all the way. That's kind of pushing me towards that. If PSR didn't exist, I've actually just said, you know what, I'd take the 2 knockout games as long as it's against sides that are at the bottom of that group.
Yeah.
You want to be playing you want to finish like 23rd and then playing, what would that be, 9th, 10th place or something. So, we're looking really good, Nick, in the Champions League. Just get that win against Bruges and we'll be in a really good place.
Yeah, we'll do another. I mean, obviously, we'll talk about the Champions League again, but we'll do an actual podcast all about the Champions League, whether it be the financials or aims for top 8, potential kind of routes past the next stages and all that kind of stuff. I just wonder, and again, this is probably a conversation for that podcast instead. Supposed to be talking about Bournemouth, but here we are. I just wonder, with the changes of the format, and it's early days, we're not even halfway through the league phase yet, but it does look drastically different than how I think people would have expected it to. And yes, early days in the league table, you do get a Bournemouth top for a couple of weeks and then they disappear, in the Premier League, I mean, and it means absolutely nothing. But in the Champions League, with 3 games in now, and none of the top 8 really are teams that you would have thought would have been in there, apart from a couple possibly. And you've got like Bayern Munich are below the team that I don't even know that they lost 9-2 to on the first game of the season. They're above Bayern Munich now in the league, which is just like, how does that happen? So I just wonder whether the new format change is a benefit to Villa, because partly there's a weird element of people just aren't maybe thinking these first couple of games are important, and then all of a sudden Bayern Munich are like scrabbling around for points possibly and don't make the top 8, whereas a side like Villa do because they've already got a head start. I don't know, that might be nonsense, but I just wonder if the top 8 is a really different top 8 than you would expect. Well, that affects the latter stages. Like maybe we get an unlikely. I'm not saying it's going to be Villa, but maybe you get like an unlikely team goes much further than you thought they would traditionally.
Yeah, well, if you look at, I went on, there's a page called, a lot of people probably know it by now, Football Rankings, and they do the coefficient for everyone, and they help everyone out to see like how everything looks. They've done like a predictor, which I don't take any interest in really, because it's not, that's just his opinion essentially by giving percentages. And supercomputer stuff anyway, I think is always rubbish, because that supercomputer is just what you've fed the information, like a human has fed that information. Anyway, but if you look at that, he's put Villa, I think, like 6th or 7th or something in the top 8. But then you've got like PSG and like the big 24. But there's games there, because obviously it goes from 9th to play 24, 10 play 23, stuff like that. So if you match those teams up, there's a lot of winnable teams there that could be be drawn out against Villa in the round of 16 if we get there. For example, I think it was like Celtic against PSV or something was one of the rankings that would have happened. That in a round of 16 game in the Champions League, Villa against one of those teams, like bring it on.
Or Villa get through their next stage, and all of a sudden you've got a Celtic in a quarter final or something. You go, hang on a minute, like one of these teams is the game before that. All of a sudden, one of those teams is getting much further than you thought they would. Yeah,
and I think was it last year, or it was the year that City played Inter in the final, which I think was last year. Yes, it was. I went to the Porto Inter quarter final in Porto. Was that even last year? It might have been the year before. I can't remember. Anyway. But one side of the draw was stacked, and it was like City, Bayern, Real Madrid, PSG, and then the other side was Inter, AC Milan, someone and someone. It wasn't last year because that was Dortmund, Real Madrid. Forget that, but it was the year before. But basically saying it was
the final.
Yeah, look at the draw is basically what I'm trying to say here. So Villa could have that. Equally, it could be a horrible draw for us. I say horrible draw. It's Champions League. Like, do we really? Let's play them. But equally, just on that's the table so far. Yes, Villa have played Bayern, and I know Inter Milan only got past Young Boys at the very end of the game. Thuram scored in the 90th minute, so maybe Villa had a better result than what we thought against Young Boys. But if Villa played, and I know this has been a bit negative, but if Villa played Monaco away, Bayern, and Juventus, we might not have 9 points. We might have had 6.
I know.
All of a sudden, we would have been, I don't even know where, like mid-table, and we probably wouldn't even have a conversation of finishing the top 8. So having the start that we've had is like fantastic, and we beat Bayern, so I'm not going to take anything away from us at all. But what I'm trying to say is those teams will also have easier games. They'll have a Bologna at home and we'll have a Leipzig away. That's going to then level it. It's still very early.
I know.
Yeah, I'm not telling you that, but it's more like. But what I'm trying to say, the point is that we have Bruges next and then Juventus. If we win Bruges and then you go into Juventus thinking, okay, well, if we win this could be almost it. Yeah. There we go. Sound like if our two harder games come in the last 3. That's not our fault.
Well, yeah, exactly.
I'm just talking about away games. Those 2 away games are particularly difficult. So that's not our fault that that's how it lands. It's more favourable that happens for us because we already have points on the board.
Yeah. Okay, let's go back to Bournemouth then and talk about our predicted 11 for the 3 o'clock kickoff. A few different talking points here, I suppose. Let's start with Leon Bailey. Who's been struggling a little bit at the moment, and the talking points after you're going to back Leon Bailey here. I can just tell by the smoke on your face. So hold that thought for a second. Yeah. The conversations have been, he's not been as good. Maybe he's carrying a little bit of an injury, confidence not there, whatever. Slight improvement for Bologna, but still not the standard that we want, and still did things that frustrated me. My initial thing was like, well, Philogene can play at the weekend, so that gives a chance a bit about, Philogene suspended. Damn it, okay. Yeah. Does Bailey start for you?
He does actually, yeah.
He does. Okay.
Which, and by the way, if he's on the bench, then I'm equally fine with that because I'd play McGinn and then Ramsey. Yeah. McGinn, Bailey. McGinn plays for me on either side, and then it's Ramsey or Bailey. But I think he'll go with Bailey. So that's the answer to that question. Do you want me to talk about Bailey in general?
Go on, thanks. I can tell you got a look on your face that's about to defend the man for 3 minutes.
I feel like we've been so good. There's going to be one player that might not be at the level that we expect of him. And at the moment, that's Bailey. And that's kind of like full stop there for me.
Do you think he's a bit of an escaped goat?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I did read that. I could have made you look like a bit of a mug then for people who haven't watched the Villa Social. I can't now. No, I just feel like, firstly, we've seen Bailey when he hasn't played well, like really hasn't played well under Gerrard, and he didn't actually beat the club, stuff like that. He said that himself. When Emery's come in, it's a different player. Last season, he was outrageously good. And that's kind of why, put it this way, I can't see him hiding when he's not playing well at the moment. I think he's trying to do things. He's trying to be positive and he's trying to make things happen. He's not hiding. And then that's my main kind of salient point here. And that already is enough for me to suggest, okay, he might be playing with a niggle. We knew that he had injuries at the start of the season. Maybe he still has one now, and Emery's kind of making him play, and it kind of not in a bad way of overdoing an injury. But we've heard Bailey say before he has to feel confident in his body to play at his best level. Last season, he was happy to do that. He played through the pain barrier at the back end. Right now, he's kind of lacking confidence. He's a bit out of form, of course. But I feel like that's just a bit exaggerated, shall I say, because we're doing so well. I feel like if we weren't doing well as a team, we wouldn't be looking at Bailey so much. We'd be saying, oh yeah, but Luca Dean is kind of come off it a bit, or not speaking on Luca Dean, by the way, it's been excellent, but just as a random player, other players as well. Bailey is now just the only player who's out of form, and that's going to happen over the course of a season. And I just think what we saw last season, he'll get that back, I'm sure he will. It's just that right now, he's lacking confidence, or he might be carrying something a little bit. But I don't think that's a reason to suggest that, all of a sudden, the Diaby factor or other things. I don't really see that at the moment. Or if that isn't the case, then I'll admit it maybe later in the season. But we're, a couple of months into the campaign? He had an amazing season last season. And I'm waiting for him to just get a bit more confidence, essentially. I just feel like he's being positive. We've seen Bailey when he's hiding from the ball. We've seen him standing on the wing and he doesn't even bother to beat his man. But I'm not seeing that now. I'm seeing him trying to get at Bologna players. It doesn't work all the time. That's okay, as long as he's trying things and he's, being positive. And that's what I'm seeing. Not everything's going to come off, of course it isn't, but he's too good for him to stay out of form, essentially, is my point.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough, and I'm not suggesting he's a bad footballer.
No,
absolutely not. It's just at the moment when the ball goes down that right hand side to him, there was a stage last season where you think anything could happen here. Like I'm excited now. I feel like anything could happen here. He could give the ball away. He could fall over himself. He could roll out a play, and that's really annoying.
But I still get that feeling of like, oh, here we go, kind of thing. And that's you got a real player. You're not? Okay, fair enough. I still do, because of what we saw last season and we know what he can produce. I still feel like there's a kind of a feeling of excitement when he kind of comes off the wing and he receives the ball. I still feel like, something can happen here because he's going to draw out markers. He's going to, something can happen. And again, I still feel like he's being positive. He's not receiving the ball and then coming inside and then standing out on the wing. He'll play inside and then make a run, or he'll go at his man. He might not beat him, but that's okay because we know that he's not a player who just doesn't beat a player because he's not good enough. It's because of confidence or whatever it may be. Classic winger. And we didn't see that once last season from Bailey. He was just exceptional for like 38 games. So I'm hoping he'll be back into form sooner rather than later. But I also have no doubts that, in the coming months, he'll be fine. If not, then I will start to feel like, well, is there an actual issue here? Is he playing through an injury that he needs to be rested for like a month or something? So probably want to put it to Unai, to be fair, to kind of get his feelings on it as well.
Yeah. Run me through the rest of an 11 for you then, and we'll compare and contrast and see what we think about the game as a whole, because I think certain players that you pick obviously affects other players that you might pick.
Yeah. So I've gone with Luca Dean left back coming back into the team. Maatsen was fantastic against Bologna, but Luca Dean is to be the first choice at the moment. Martinez in goal, obviously. I've put Pau Torres with Diego Carlos again and kept Conser at right back again, because I think that's what Emery can do. I wouldn't be surprised if Cash comes back into the side, like kind of a flip of a coin, really. In midfield, Onana and Barkley. I've gone with Bailey on the right and then McGinn on the left, and Rodgers support. Have I done it again? Onana and Tielemans, sorry. Yeah. I've got it in my head and I just say the players that I'm thinking, they'll be on the bench. Then I did it last week around. Tielemans and Onana, Barkley on the bench. Barkley to come on if we need some a bit more, like that's been happening, hasn't it, recently? So I think I've stumbled across an 11 there.
Okay, I'll offer something a slightly different perspective. I think, and again, I'm not saying this is what Emery will do or that I want to see him do. I think it's just a different option. So I think your wide players, if you like, could be Ramsey and McGinn. McGinn on the right, Ramsey on the left, Rodgers behind Watkins, Onana and Barkley / Tielemans, brackets, I mean Tielemans, in the midfield, I think is the choices at the moment. Lovely to see Kamara back on Tuesday night. Obviously not going to be starting games anytime soon. Ross Barkley also very good, but Barkley and Kamara might even play against Palace. Who knows? Another week yet for that. Less than. Anyway,
we've got so many good options, haven't we? Like,
that's mad, isn't it? Like when you looked at the bench for Bologna and thought, pretty much any of those players, if they were starting the game, you go, yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, like, and this will sound really sad, but most days I've been waking up and thinking like,
it's already sad. You don't have to say anything else. It's already sad.
No, but I'm gonna.
Whatever you say here, when I wake up every morning and think I'm in a squad.
Not straight away, but when I'm having my breakfast and getting ready for work, I do feel like we're good. But I'm also savouring it because I know it's not going to last, which is a sad thing. Again, not to spin this into a negative, but it's true. We have so many games. We may get a few injuries here and there, and it will be like, oh, do you remember that time when we had a fully fit team and it was just class and you woke up every day and had your breakfast thinking about it? No. Hopefully, if we have injuries, it will be 1 or 2 here and there, and it really won't affect the team. And that's what Arsenal last season, and they nearly won the league. Hopefully, that's just this season, but we go one step further. I don't know, but we've had such bad luck with injuries. You feel like, well, we deserve at least a few months here of just nothing. But unfortunately, football, you never know what's around the corner. So while it's here, I'm just going to savor it and just wow, so many options. It's mad to think that we can't even fit everyone in the squad. Like Bogard and Silswinkel's playing for the 21s tonight. I don't even think that makes room necessarily for Mings. I think Nedeljkovic will have to stay out as well, or I don't know. Let's see how it goes. But it's a scrap to get into the squad, let alone into the 11.
Yeah, I would like to finish the rest of my back four, but Jacob's asking what do you have for breakfast?
I have at the moment I'm having shreddies. It's like a big. I go through kind of cycles with my cereal, really.
Shreddies. Have it like every single day for like 3 months, and then go, okay, just change.
And then I'll be like, why am I eating this? It's horrible. And then I'll have something else. I don't know what, oats or something. I was having oats for about 6 months. It's really good. But then, forgot what happened. I think they stopped stocking the ones that I liked, and then it went a bit pear-shaped. Don't like pears, for the record. But,
why does that not surprise me?
So it's going to be something different probably from next week. No one really cares, so I won't let you know. But
we'll come back next week for preview to see what John's having for breakfast. Right, back four. The Maatsen Dean one is interesting. I think that's certainly a talking point. So is Cash Conser, to be honest. If I'm playing McGinn on my right-hand side, I would prefer Cash to be behind him. You need some kind of width. That puts Conser back in the middle with Torres. Now, I love the idea of Cash and Maatsen playing and both fullbacks bombing on and being really attacking. That's not what we've seen under Emery, and it's going to leave us vulnerable without someone like Kamara dropping back into a back three. But I just like that natural width. Ramsey and McGinn are going to want to come inside. Maatsen and Cash overlapping, lovely. But I don't think you can play both. So I think our best options at the moment is Dean comes back in on the left, Cash plays right back, Conser comes back inside. I think that's a better option of balance. Although Maatsen, like you say, was excellent on Tuesday night, but so is Dean. Dean's been brilliant for a long time.
This is why I want Bailey in the team as well. I just feel like it gives us something that no one else can in the team, unless it's Philly Jean, and obviously he's not available. But structurally as well, very useful as well. It allows space for the players to go into. So kind of another tick in the box for Bailey for me.
Okay, all right. Well, let's end the show then with our score predictions. I'll open the same up to those that are watching along live. You can leave your score predictions in the live chat and I'll read some out. Now, I said to you, John, before we started, shall we do our score predictions? And you said, yeah, good. So I've prepared mine. I can tell by the scramble that you reached your phone in then. You didn't prepare yours earlier. So I'll keep filling for another bit while you write down 2 numbers on a screen.
I think the reason why is because I started fighting with you against the chocolates that you said that you liked and I don't.
Well, we'll finish with that because that could get heated and we might have to emergency end the stream. A couple of comments that we already had earlier were 2-0 from Nick and another 2-0 actually from Heggs and Neptune with Watkins and Rogers to score the goals. Roger Rogers. Right, have you got your score prediction ready to go?
Yeah, ready to go.
Oh, actually, before, let me just do a quick update. Fulham last week, I went 2-1 win. You went 1-1 draw. The actual result was obviously 3-1. I was obviously very happy to win 3-1, but there was a stage at 2-1 where I thought, stay like this. This is good for me. So just the 1 point, just the 1 point for me to get the correct outcome. You get nothing for being wrong with a draw. That puts me ahead by 1 point, the first differential of the season. I'm now on 4. You're on 3, which is pretty measly, isn't it? After 8 Premier League games to be on 4 and 3. Our predictions haven't been good, have they?
No, they've been good.
But this is time to change it with Bournemouth at home. We now have in the comments 2-1 Villa, Ramsey and Buendia off the bench with a header. I love the specificity of that. Buendia's decent with his head. Another 2-1 Villa. 4-0 from Dickey. Watkins twice, McGinn and Rogers. 5-2, says Lewis. 2-0 Rogers, Bailey. 2-0 Villa clean sheet. 3-1. There's loads coming in now and all very strong in Villa as you would expect. Right. Enough Phil. John, reveal to me your prediction in 3, 2, 1. Oh, okay. Look at the artwork I've done. A bit of 3D letter in there. 3-1 each for those that are listening. Me and John have both predicted a 3-1. So if we're both correct, there'll be no differential in the scorelines for the predictions league this year. Last year, if John had said 3-1 first, I'd have gone, oh, well, I'll just go 2-1 then to be different. But we both have to stick with the 3-1 now. My thinking was, well, we did that result last year, so let's just do the same again. Was that your logic?
Yeah. No. When you say 3-1, it's always, we don't keep many clean sheets, but we're quite good going forward. That's just the classic. So, I'd take whatever Villa win, to be honest with you. A clean sheet would be nice, of course, but it appears we've kind of overcome our defensive issues. So, I'd be happy just to get 3 points. That's fine.
Yeah, there's a comment just come through. I won't name what they said or who the person was, but they asked about a certain Bournemouth podcast and said I should have contacted them. I did. No reply. If they stumbled upon this, it's fine. I assume everyone's very busy. It's fine. I'm not digging anybody out. That's why I haven't said who it is. Anyway, talking of digging out, John said to me before we started this, everybody, what Christmas chocolates do you like?
The boxes.
Words to that effect. Yeah, like the big cylindrical tubs that you get. And I said I'd go with Celebrations or Heroes, like the branded ones. Yeah, the Cadbury stuff, the Twixes, the Marses, the Galaxy Caramels, the usual the good ones.
Exactly, the usual boring.
John said something like, "Oh, that's boring. I'd rather have this." And I said, "If you bring me out a tray of Quality Street, I'm not doing the podcast." And then, for those that are listening, John's just disappeared. Look at this. Quality Street by choice. And not only that, where's the Roses? The second worst one? Of all of the main ones, the Celebrations, the Heroes, Roses, and Quality Street. Roses and Quality Street are absolutely dead last. Stinkers.
Yeah, I switched off, to be fair, 2 minutes ago, mate. Firstly, plug for Asda.
So is everyone else.
two for £5. 2 for £5 at Asda for Christmas confectionery. I say Christmas. God, it's not Halloween yet. No, Celebrations for me is really like, if you want a Twix, you want a Bounty, you want this or you want that, go to the shop and buy a Twix bar. Why would you want them small and with other ones that half the family don't even like? Out of all of those, Bounty would be the first one that I go for because I like a Bounty. And I was getting cooked in my group chat for that specifically. And then I'm thinking, well, but you like the chocolate box that has Bounty in them and you don't like Bounty, so why would you go for that one? Like, none of it makes sense for me. So Quality Street is just an all-timer. Don't know what's wrong with that. Green Triangle, one of the best chocolates that has been made, and you don't like it? What's that about? Roses I go for as well. Roses, I won't lie, it's kind of dropped in my estimations, and I've come receipts. Apparently, I've taken out I hope there's nothing else on there that shouldn't be. Cadbury Choc Shock. This is the sun. Cadbury has ditched Brazilian darkness, and I didn't know that. That was like 2018.
Just looking at that, I couldn't even tell you what that was because I wouldn't buy Roses. That means nothing to me. Well,
you've missed out then, haven't you?
There'll be no tears in my household that's been taken out of the Roses, so I won't be buying them. Somebody in the comments said 2 for £9 in Asda. Are you right that it's only 2 for £5?
This is where my partner's on the sofa. 2 for £9, someone just said they were. But you have to say at the checkout, these have been, what is it? 2 for £5, right? It is 2 for £5.
Quality. Do they feel sorry for you because you were buying the crappiest ones?
You need a rewards card, whoever that was. So 2 for £5 with a rewards card. 2 for £9 if you don't have that. So yeah. Okay.
All right. Okay, fair enough. I'll allow it. I think we should end the podcast there before we start throwing hands. To be honest, we're never going to agree on this, are we?
Yeah, I've kind of got most of it off my chest. To be fair, okay. We'll live with that.
Okay, all right, fair enough. A tiff on the podcast. You hate to see it. Thanks everyone for tuning in live. We appreciate you as always on this Friday evening. Thank you for spending your time with us. If you're watching this on YouTube, scroll down to the comments after we've gone off air and leave your comments as well. Please do get involved with that feedback form as well. That's in the description or the YouTube comments as well. It'll take you less than a couple of minutes to fill it out. It's just a little bit of feedback around international breaks, the quality of the podcast, episode suggestions, that kind of stuff. Please be nice. If you've listened on podcast feeds, you can leave iTunes reviews or Apple Podcast reviews and ratings and all that good stuff as well. Go on, John.
Leave a comment on in the YouTube comments what your favourite chocolate box is.
Oh yeah, okay, good. And if it's roses or Quiet Street, you'll be banned and you won't be watching the podcast again. Thank you for watching this one. Thank you for watching this one or listening to this episode of Climate Room Podcast. We'll be back for the post-match show tomorrow evening, 5:30, 6 o'clock, something like that. That'll be me and Kendrick, and you can catch up with Villa Social. What was that, John?
Ask Matt about his chocolate box as well.
Okay,
we need a huge sample size here.
Maybe the next Villa Social, it's early anyway, Christmas chocolate in October. Maybe in the Villa Social Christmas special, we'll do a review of the best chocolate. How's that?
Yeah, absolutely fine with that.
Okay, all right. Thank you for watching or listening to this episode of the Climate Room Podcast. We'll see you tomorrow.